Step Potential here, back for another episode of the Prometheus Podcast. I'm joined with Hendry, Jackson, and Ali, and yours truly, Luke, of course. Gentlemen, how are we all feeling today?
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty alert. Pretty good. Pretty awake. Good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Not too bad. Well, transitioning from our previous podcast, we were talking about healthy habits, and we mentioned something that definitely caught my attention, which we said it a few times, which were just setting goals in general. And I guess habits, we were talking about that. Setting up habits is I guess a goal in itself. So I know it's probably one of my strengths is goal setting, having a bit of a plan and envisioning it, and I guess executing that vision as well. So I know I feel very strongly that I have ability with it. I just wanted to gauge how do you go about setting goals, and how do you feel about goal setting? And is it something that you actually do? Because I've heard it a few times. I don't know the exact statistic, but if you set goals, it's some ridiculous amount that you're up there with I'm talking 80 or 90% of people don't do it. So you've already just exclusively became like a 5% type population where you're at least being proactive in trying to achieve success in your life. Don't quote me on the stats, but it's I've heard and read it a few times. So yeah, I just wanted to we'll open that up and see what you all think.
Yeah, I'll start it off. I definitely set goals. I've been setting goals as far as I can remember, honestly. But the way I set my goals is I say pretty standard, or a little bit different in a sense. I set it into two different categories. I have goals that are written down, and I have goals that are just like in my mind constantly. I spoke about it a little bit before on the last podcast, how I was like in the morning I write down or read the goals that I've written for the day or something. That's one way of me doing goals. Other ways, I have a vision board, no words on it, just straight pictures of what I want. Whether it's like a house, a car, or money or something like that. It's just like travel or something like that. It's just pictures on a board, just like a blank like wood board that you can just buy from like any store. And that's another thing that I do as well. And then another thing is I have my goals always written on my phone in case I always forget. And I just kind of like read it like whenever I can. Like if I just want to remind myself of why I'm doing this, if I ever find a drive that I don't want to do this anymore, then I just look back and I'm like, why am I doing this? What am I trying to achieve? But I definitely feel like you do need to set goals, because without goals, you're not going to get anywhere in life, right? It's like you have no direction.
Well, just on that then, before anyone else takes the mic. So you did mention you write down goals and then you have the goals in your head. Mm-hmm. So can you give, I guess, a bit more of a breakdown of that, and what's the difference between you writing your goals down, and can you give us some examples? Some goals you write down, and what's just in your head every day?
So mental goals is stuff that's got to do with just myself, like mental well-being. Like it'd be like focus on just being happy, or it's like, do something that will bring you kind of like fulfillment into your life. It's just all the things that kind of like reflect on me. The goals that are written down are like physical things or stuff that, like the long-term kind of things. Like the mental goals is just stuff that I can constantly do every single minute and remind myself of, and see if I can achieve it or not. And the things that are written down is like the stuff that's going to take me a while, right? Yeah. And then sure, I do have that like that like goal that I read out every single morning, and that's like short term. But like the mental goals are like things that I can just constantly do at any point in time, right? Yeah. So it's like if I'm feeling down or something, then I just got to be like, well, why am I down? Like, what caused this? And I'm just gonna reflect on that. Yeah. And that's just like, it's just goals that just kind of keep me going and keep me flowing.
Yeah. So short term, long term, it's kind of on paper. You can see it, and then it's a bit more of the broader goal and the whole, and what you want your life to turn out to be. That's just a kind of mental reminder that you're carrying every day.
I guess my ability to goal set, I think, was very much cultivated during my studies in high school. I was, I guess,
always the type of person to do well in school, and then especially in high school, cultivating that ability to, I guess, micromanage the different parts of my life and make sure that, everything was running smoothly. It was, I guess, a bit of a process to get to that point, but once you do figure out that process, it has served me well. For long-term stuff, I don't tend to write things down. It probably is still worth doing, but I guess me personally, I don't really, as you're saying, Henry, a lot of the visionary long-term stuff I just like to keep in my head, because it's just always changing and growing, and different influences are always coming in and out. So I don't really find much use in writing those down, but it's different for everyone. And then short-term stuff on a day-to-day basis, I kind of break it down into two categories. So one category isn't really per se for written goals. It's more so a way of carrying out your actions. So I heard this somewhere, I can't remember exactly where, but it said that if you can do it in less than 5 minutes, do it now. So whether that's you've come home from like a night out and you don't want to hang your clothes up back in your wardrobe, you just chuck them on your bed or chuck them on the floor, and whatever, you'll get back to it. It would take about 20 seconds to do it, but you're not going to do it. You wait till later. So that's one thing you got to do. It's like tomorrow's problem, right? And then you're like, oh, I didn't turn the dishwasher on. Tomorrow's problem. It'd take less than 5 minutes to both, even just like to load it up, take less than 5 minutes. Tomorrow's problem. Doing your laundry, tomorrow's problem. Or even like an hour from now, it'll be a problem for then. But you could, there's so many things that take less than 5 minutes to do, and you can tick it off. And by delaying them or not doing them just in the moment, if you already have the time, it just adds bulk and more, I guess, mental things you need to keep track of that necessarily you don't even need to. So I guess that's one I guess, capacity in which I make sure that these like, again, like redefining what your goals are. These aren't like loading the dishwasher isn't this profound goal of mine, but it's still a task, right? It's still something that needs to be done, like, especially as we all grow older and our parents are doing less and less for us. Like most of us are, at least in some capacity, quite independent now. So it is a valuable skill to have. And then in terms of things that maybe are a bit more time consuming, can't really be done in 5 minutes or less. Say I need to write an essay for uni, or I have to do some other task, or I'm working on a project like here with you boys. What I like to do is I like to prioritize my tasks. So I'll find one thing. Don't go more than one. Just one thing that I could do today that would have made today worth it. So if I could just complete one task today, and if I went to bed tonight, I would think that today, like, value was added to my life. Like, I achieved something, that becomes priority one. So that doesn't have to be a profound thing that makes your life elevated to a higher plane. It's just, I need to write, at least 500 or like 700 words to this essay that's due in a week from now. If I get that done, today would have been a really good day. And then that's priority number one. I wake up, brush my teeth, go for a run, whatever. And then that's what I'm doing. And I get that done. And after that's done, then basically I have time to do other things. But in case those things don't happen or things fall through, it doesn't matter, because I already did that one thing that made today worth it. And if you keep doing that day by day, it's a good way to just filter through. And as you, I guess, cultivate that skill, it makes you, I guess, more sensitive to what things are actually important, what actually needs to be done, and things that, are perhaps more secondary, which is, I guess, a good skill in its own right, because it's one thing to have goals, but it's another thing to actually know which goals are worth your time. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, well, with myself, in terms of goal setting, I like to keep it fairly simple. I don't like to set too many goals at once. So as you were saying, kind of that one thing each day. In terms of even like long-term goals, so whether it's a month, a week, or whatnot, you've got one goal for that month. I like to keep it simple. That's probably the reason why I don't tend to write my goals down. If I've got maybe a couple of things that I can think of, I'll prioritize them and say, all right, well, if this is my highest priority in terms of goal setting, then it's, okay, I'm going to prioritize my time for that goal. Whereas I think a lot of people go, all right, I'm going to set a goal for this, going to set a goal for this, going to set a goal for this, going to set a goal for this. I think that, even, starting out for goal setting, it's kind of, as we were talking about in that last podcast for healthy habits, actually being able to achieve a goal will set you up to be able to achieve more. So, I don't usually write mine down, short term or long term. It's more so, building towards one, and then once you've achieved that, then build from that. Because once you've achieved that one goal, then if that's like a recurring interaction you've got, or a recurring accomplishment that you might need to take, achieving that first one, you can then keep achieving it. And while you're achieving that, then you can branch onto the next one. That's kind of the way I see it. I like to keep things simple. I think you can invest a lot more time and you can work a lot smarter towards that, instead of kind of, getting yourself frazzled saying, all right, well, I've got these 6 things that I've got to do. And you're putting all this time into trying to achieve these goals, and you leave 1 or 2 of them out, and you neglect 1 or 2 of them, then you start thinking, oh, wow, I'm not achieving my goals. When you're achieving 4 of them, but you're just not at the point where you can achieve all 6. So that's where, I like to keep it simple. 1, maybe 2 at a time, and head from there.
Must have a good memory, mate. So touching on what you were saying, this is something that I'm trying to implement recently, and I reckon it does touch on similar to what we we're talking about, but I got this from E.T., the hip hop preacher. In one of his speeches, he was talking about how he prioritizes his goals, and it's as simple as, I think it was like just 4 categories. It's an emergency, it's very important, it's important, or it's somewhat important. And it's similar to what you were saying, Eiley, where it's like, well, if you can do something in 5 minutes or so, get it done. And like, if that is the way you want to operate in terms of goal setting, those tasks will move into that kind of emergency category, because having those categories, you can see where you can dedicate time. Like, it's like a measurable where you go, well, emergency, I need to do it now. What goals do I need to do today? Like, if it's that one goal, that's an emergency.
Yeah.
You might have 6 other ones that you're thinking of. They then trickle down to, well, the next ones are very important. I probably want to get on those next, but the very last one, it's just going to be somewhat important. So then you look at it and go, well, look, does it have to really be done today? Because I think measuring it and obviously putting time on it, for one, it's one way to run a business, but running yourself as well, in terms of holding yourself accountable. So if you can move a goal to emergency, like 100%, if you did some gig, if you've done some job and you've gotten a phone call and it's like, well, you haven't given us your bank details. And I'm just quoting Eric Thomas right now, so don't sue me, mate. It'd be like, you use that example where it's like, all right, well, if I was to do work and I forgot to give them my account details or something, and they're like, we can't pay you, that is emergency. Stop what you're doing, where's my stuff, send it through, because I need to get paid, I need to put food on the table for my family, I need to eat. So that becomes that emergency level, because, again, when it's an emergency, you stop everything what you're doing. So it doesn't even have to be the emergency. Like, if you use that same kind of philosophy and you go, all right, well, 5 minutes, this, that, dishwasher, emergency, get it done, get it sorted, move on. That way it's just like in your mind, you're registering it a bit differently, instead of just going, I got to do the washing, I got to do the dishwasher, I should probably go in and see my family, but where does that land? Well, then if you sit down, you go, all right, well, sure, family is the most important, but you're looking at it and going, well, what does my day look like? Am I just doing the dishwasher? Am I then seeing my family? And then am I working on, doing my job then later? And it's just like categorizing those kind of 4 things, and you could like make it happen into 3 if you really wanted, but whether it's short term or long term, like this one is a bit more of a like practical, and I think that's what you're getting at a bit. You want something that is like a practical system, because all the goals in the world is all fine and good, but if you don't actually execute them, there's not really any point to it. So I thought that was an interesting one that that I've picked up on and I'm trying to implement and using my time to go, well, if it's an emergency, get it done. If it's very important, that's obviously next on the list. And if I think I need to do something, but I look at everything else and I go, well, using those, it's now somewhat important. And then go, well, do I really even need to do it? Like, do I need to put time to it? Or is that something that I can do in like a month? Yeah. That way it's just not like procrastinating in terms of the sense that you're going to just try keep busy but not productive. I think that's a real big one that people fail in jobs, and that's just a lack of priority. They be busy, and similar to what you were saying, Jack, you try to do 6 things and you have 6 unaccomplished things. It's like, well, like I'm in my job, I just have a to-do list, and then I just go, well, what is my most important, and then where to from there, and I go, I need to get these done today, whatever it takes, get them done today, and then reassess. And I think a lot of people either try to do too much, or the biggest one, like I said, if you set goals, you're in like that 5% category. So it's either they try to do too much, or people just don't do it at all, and they just go through life just taking it day by day, going, I want to do this, and probably want to earn some money here, or maybe start this up, but there's just not an actual metric, or there's not even a deadline and accountability for it. And in that way, it's always next week, it's always next month, it's always next year. I'll get in shape next month. I don't need to do it now. And I think that's where people that's the 2 categories where I think they fall. So they either try to stretch themselves and try to do too much, or majority of them, they just don't even hold themselves accountable to a goal.
I think on that as well is when a lot of people hear the term setting goals, they set really unrealistic goals. So like you could say, all right, what is it? It's October now. We've got 2.5 months till end of the year, right? And you could ask someone on the street and say, all right, what's a goal that you want to achieve by the end of the year? And they can say, I want to lose 10 kilos. Like, just say for a physical goal, right? So I want to lose 10 kilos by Christmas. If they just put it out there, they say, all right, I'm gonna be 10 kilos under what I am right now at the end of the year, then how realistic is that in their lifestyle, right? So in terms of someone that doesn't have much time, doesn't do much physical activity, doesn't meal prep, doesn't eat healthily, and they just turn around and say, I'm going to lose 10 kilos. It's like, well, hold on a minute. I think you need to be more specific in the actions that you need to take to get to that spot. So in terms of, all right, well, what are the things you've got to do? You've got to go, all right, you've got to be more active, you've got to eat healthier, you've probably got to get more sleep, drink more water, all these things. So in terms of saying, I'm going to lose 10 kilos, the goals should actually be, I'm going to start being more active, I'm going to start eating more healthy, I'm going to start drinking more water, getting more sleep. I think being more specific in your goal setting is will set you up for a higher rate of success for your goals, I think. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of let themselves down, and they basically just go, they go too broad or too unrealistic. But what are your thoughts on that?
I definitely I do feel like, speaking on you saying you want to saying someone wants to lose 10 kilos or something, I feel like people have these aspirations in life or something, right? But there's no execution to it. There's no plan to it. There's it's like I want to be rich when I grow up, but it's like, well, what are you gonna do to get there? It's like I don't know, I'm just gonna be rich, and it's like, well, you're not gonna get there if you don't have any execution for it. And it's the thing with goals is that, in terms of you saying the statistic of not many people set goals, I feel like a majority of people have aspiration goals, but they don't set it properly. Do you know what I mean? There's no why you're doing it. There's no who you're doing it for. It's like there's no reason behind it. They just want it, and it's like you have to have all these reasons behind this goal for you to be able to achieve that goal. And if you don't have that, if you don't have the reasons for that to achieve that goal, and you don't have the plan to achieve that goal, it's just a goal at the end of the day. It's just gonna be a dream. And when it's the end of your life, you're gonna be like, well, what the f*** I do? And you're gonna have flashbacks of everything. And just be like, well, what's this?
No, exactly right. And I think you were hitting it perfectly with that execution part, because of course we'll use step potential for an example. Envision, execute, succeed. So I think 100% with those 3 words, for me personally, execution part is the best and the most important. So, because like you're saying, setting goals is one thing, but can you actually execute? Can you be held accountable? Do you have a plan in structure? Like you're saying, people say, I want to get rich. Well, what do you want to do? Oh, I'll just work hard for it. It's like, all right, well, what does that look like? Because you're just going to go to your job and work hard. Like, if you truly want to be rich in life, are you talking about fulfillment, or are you just talking about on a monetary scale? And then depending on what you are talking about, that's all well and good, but then take the learnings from all these people who are billionaires and millionaires. What do? You're just saying you want to work hard. These people work on their health. They read every night. They do all these other healthy habits that we just talked about. So it's like, well, for one, you can start there if you want, because if you want to get to that end goal, that's the part that you have to execute. It's all well and good thinking you're going to be driving a nice car, but this is the stepping stones. You need to build on these things. And it's more of a expedition. It's not just something that's going to happen like that. If you're going to set a goal like that, you need to be breaking it down to, well, what can I do today that embodies those views and values that certain individuals have? And if I can operate like that every single day and hold myself accountable and then set goals in those days, then that's when you start stepping towards that goal. Like, you start actually executing towards the end goal. But I 100% agree that people lack execution. They just envision it and it's all well and good, or they hop on it for like a couple of weeks or something, and then they don't actually realize like what execution like entails.
I think the execution method is kind of neglected when people set their goals. I think that's the main issue there.
Yeah, and again, I agree with what most of you guys are saying, is that there is a problem in the envisioning process, which has flow-on effects to when you execute. We mentioned, I guess, that idea of specificity. So rather than saying, I want to lose, 10 kilograms, it's, well, I want to start being more active. But even more specific than that, like make it as specific as it is possible to make it. So keep breaking it down step by step. So, okay, well, how are you going to be more active? You're going to start running every morning. More specific. What does that mean? So every morning I'm going to wake up at 10 o'clock. More specific. What does that mean? Every day I'm going to wake up every morning at 10 a.m. I want to go and I'm going to run for 500 meters or 5 kilometers. Keep making it down, and then once you get to that, like the crux of it, what's in the center of it, then that process of envisioning, I guess, is more holistic. It's more complete. Mm-hmm. So then when you go to executing, then it's so much more, I guess, directed in terms of where you put your effort, because I want to lose 10 kilograms is just an abstract action. It's not, you can't just will 10 kilograms away. You can't just execute on that. It's only once you've broken it down to its component parts, to the part where it can't be reduced anymore. You can't reduce it anymore. Then that's when you know, okay, well, this is something I can implement and this is something I can execute. And you mentioned something like a difference between being busy and being productive. And I think that's huge, because everybody will say they're busy. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you work 3 hours a day and you just have free time the rest of the day, or you work 18 hours a day. When you ask someone how they're going, they're like, oh, I'm just really busy. Oh, I'm busy this, I'm busy that. And I think busyness is used as an excuse, but in reality, busyness is a choice, because no one forced you to be busy. You're in control of your own life. And if you're busy, then that's your prerogative. You're the reason why you are busy. So own that, and don't just say, oh, I'm busy. It's, well, yes, I'm doing a lot, but no one has the right to complain about being busy, because they put themselves in that situation. And in how that looks like in terms of setting goals, I think a lot of people set time-based goals, which I think are the worst possible types of goals. They're better than no goals, but not by much, because especially, I guess, bringing it back to that study context, but it applies to a lot of things. A lot of students, I guess, will say, all right, I'm going to study this for an hour. And that's a bad goal, because, all right, so you sit down, it's 2 o'clock. All right, 2 to 3, I'm going to be working on this. So you get your pencil case out, you get your books out, you go make yourself a coffee. You get a notification on your phone. I'll come back to it. You sit down, you do a bit of work, and your girlfriend messages you, so you get your phone back out. and then you just like kind of stare into the middle distance for like 10 minutes for some reason. And then at the end of that hour, you maybe only did 15 minutes of work, but you still give yourself a pat on the back because you're like, oh, that's my hour.
Yeah.
See ya.
I think on top of that, while you're on that topic, it's a lot of people like with their goals. Say for the example of studying, right? Yeah, I'm gonna study for an hour for this subject because I got my exam next week. I'm gonna study for an hour tonight. Like what's the issue with saying, like, no, I'm not gonna study for an hour. I'm gonna study until I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Until I've been educated on enough to get me through my exam. Yeah. You know, instead of saying, it's alright. I'll, if you're playing sports, I'm gonna train for an extra half an hour after training. Go, hold on a minute. Like, why don't you train for as long as it takes for you to be where you want to be? So it's like not how you said setting that time frame is that kind of barely anything over not having a goal. I think that time frame. I agree entirely with you that having that time frame on your goal is not something that really works well. I think instead of putting a time frame on it, put a purpose on it. So I say, like, you said for studying, like, you're not sitting there going, I'm going to study for an hour. You say, I'm going to study for my exam. So until I know what I need to know for my exam, I'm not going to stop studying.
Exactly, and that's like bringing it back to that specificity. It's it's not an hour. It's all right. Well, there's these 3 topics that I'm particularly weak at right now. I'm going to do that, and it's not I'm going to go to the gym for an hour. It's no, like my overarching goal is I want to add I don't know 10-20 kilograms to my 1 rep max or whatever. I want to add like 20. Like I need to add weight to like this certain exercise, and then when you come into that gym. And you're not like, okay, I'm going to be here for an hour. Because I know when I first started going to the gym, it was, oh, okay, you're kind of there. And then you're like awkwardly looking around and you'd be on your phone and like act like you're doing stretches and stuff. And then by the time you're done, it was like, oh, well, did you even really do much? So when you have those specific goals and break it down to its very component parts, that's when you can go, okay, well, it's not about just filling in the clock anymore. It's about, okay, well, getting as much done as I can to meet those specific criteria that I've outlined for myself.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, speaking of like that gym, it's like, and like anything in general, it's like, don't set a time frame to it. It's like, do it till you're actually satisfied with what you've done.
I'm massive on that. And it was just mentioned with like attach a purpose to it, so to speak. So it's like, well, if that's my goal, then exactly right. It's like, well, you're not counting what, like, you'll measure it and you'll understand what you have to do. But if it's like, oh, I want to get like fit, it's like, oh, well, it's not like, oh, I want to, whatever it is, like, let's break it down. And so it's like, I want to add that much muscle, or I want to be able to do this, or summer's coming, or whatever bloody like reason it is. It goes, all right, well, it's not as simple as, so I want to do like 30 push-ups every day. Like I say, if that's your purpose, attach meaning to that purpose, and if that's the case, then it's for me, it's like that mindset between victor and victim, and it takes that shift to go, all right, well, it is a mentality. If this is what my goal is, if this is my desire, I have to do whatever it takes to get whatever I want. And it becomes like more simple in a sense where it's like, well, if it's not 30, it could be 300, it could be 30 million push-ups. If that's the goal, you break it down to realistically, but understand that if that is what you're trying to achieve, then you're going to have to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. And if you're truly committed to that goal, and it comes back to setting unrealistic goals. If you say, this is my goal, I want to achieve this like out of my life, or I want to achieve this in the next month, it's then that you just got to cultivate into a mindset where it's like, well, like, sink or swim. Like, live or die. It's like, well, this is my goal, I'm going to get it done, whatever it takes. Got to get up earlier, got to eat better, got to cut out this toxic relationship. Whatever has to happen because that's my goal, and I've set my, I guess, building blocks to achieve it. So I'm real big on in goal settings that, like, whenever I set a goal, like, I know that it's like, if I am truly saying this is a goal I'm going to be done, like, you're going to have to kill me, because the mindset's in, like, I'll just do whatever it takes to get it done.
Like, you just reminded me of like just like this like example that I can probably give in relation to like goals and all that. I started gymming last year, around January. I weighed about 52, 53 kilos at that point in my life. Skinny and shit. And I was like, well, I'm going to add mass, like what you were talking about before. And I added a timeline to it. I was like, well, I'm 52, 53 now. I'm going to be 60 in like 9 months. Yeah. 9 months went by, I wasn't 60. And like that was detrimental. You don't, I feel like if you set a time on a goal and you don't achieve it, it demotivates you, right? And like I took like a week or two off gym, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stick to it. And I'm just gonna like, don't put a timer on it, but I'm gonna figure out what I can do better. And then I looked at like, what I did in the past couple of months, and I was like, well, I didn't eat much, I didn't eat enough, I didn't eat much healthy food, I did my protein intake wasn't enough, etc. I feel like you should like set goals, and you not every goal is gonna be achievable, right? But it's like you gotta bounce back up. You gotta figure out what you went wrong in the past, and you gotta set a new goal. And it's like once I figured out everything that I needed to figure out. From that, like I wouldn't say it failed, but like just like it just didn't happen. I set a new goal. I was like, well, all right, I'm gonna like cook all my food. I'm gonna make sure I eat all this. I'm gonna go to the gym, and I'm not gonna set a timer on the gym. I'm gonna do it until I'm satisfied till I left. And now I think it's October these days. I was 52, 53 in January. I'm now 79, 78, and I'm sitting at a pretty good weight that I'm pretty happy with. And it's like, I don't set the timer, but if you fail, look back and kind of like bounce back, figure out what you've done wrong, and then see where you can improve, and just go for it again. There's nothing wrong with failing, right?
Yeah, I think that just comes with goal setting as well. Like you're going to set some goals you're not going to be able to achieve. Like that's the bottom line. And you hear it all the time. Failure, without failure you don't really grow. I think that. If you set a goal, you don't achieve it, look back on it, reflect on it, think of how you can do it better. And I think that reflection process can really help with your next goal. And that way you're going to be more, able to achieve your goals later on. So I think when you said before, you said like, when you didn't achieve that weight, you didn't really classify it as a failure. I would have classified that as a failure, but I wouldn't have dwelled on it. I would have gone, shit, I didn't get this done. How can I do it better? And you did, and that's what you did. You look back on it, you reflected on it, and said, all right, well, maybe I'm not going to give myself a time frame. And that's where you kind of influence yourself to go, all right, now this is how I'm going to do it, and you ended up doing it. So I think with that failure aspect, it's okay to fail. Like I think that a lot of people like today, they sit there and they go, I don't want to fail, I don't want to look bad, I don't want to I don't want to go backwards at all. And I think until you've actually experienced that and you've gone backwards, you've failed a couple of times, you just go, well, it's not that bad. It's all right. Yeah, okay. I didn't get what I wanted, but it's not the end of the world. I'm still here. I can keep moving forward. And I think that's like a massive issue today is that people are scared of failure because of what other people think as well.
Just jumping on that, it's like it's a really good topic that you just brought up. It's like I feel like our parents set us up for failure, or just in general, like society sets you up for failure, right? Pretty much when I was growing up, it's like go to school, get a good job, that's it. So have a family, done, end of life. And it's just like it's little things like that that kind of baby you into just being scared to take that leap, to take that strive, to achieve that ambition that you want, that goal that you want. It's also like people look at you like, oh, you're working at this, and it's like, why are you doing that? It's like all these negative things are just going to be thrown at you, and all that to try and push you off your ground. But it's like if you can stand on your feet and you can keep moving forward, then you're going to achieve your goals. It's like going back, you're babied throughout your whole life. Oh, don't do that, don't do that, and then it gets in your head, and eventually you're just like, oh, I'll take the safe route, and then you won't achieve any of your goals, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it becomes that. It's just like that mindset. It's like, well, I either can set goals and I can achieve it. That the victim mentality. I get it done, and it's a mindset. Or it just becomes that the other side of the coin, which is just more of the light switch when it's on and off, and it's just as simple as, you've been babied, and it's like, well, I'll set a goal, I failed. Oh, well, should have listened to my parents telling me to save my money, not spend it on investments, or family and friends going, oh, why are you doing that, mate? That's so risky, blah blah blah, this and that, and it's like, well, you can listen to those thoughts, and you can continue to be babied your entire life, and you can just be like majority. And don't get me wrong, some people love the familiarity in terms of just going, well, stable job, 9 to 5, happy days, and there's nothing wrong with that if like that's what you want to achieve. And there's nothing wrong with just having those basic goals as well. And then if you're content with that, happy days, but definitely don't use it like as an excuse. Don't use busyness as an excuse. Don't use like I didn't have those resources, I didn't have like, well, I tried to do this but my friends and family talked me out of it. Like definitely don't use that as an excuse, and instead like what you're saying, well, you commit to that goal, you stick to it. And what we've all been talking about, if you actually execute it as well, then keep going forward. And if you fail, reassess, learn from it like you did, bounce back and go double down if you have to, and make it happen. But I completely agree with that whole perspective.
It's the whole thing of like, you gotta have that do or die mentality, I reckon. I feel like if you don't want it enough, you're not gonna achieve it. You gotta want something for you to be able to be like, all right, well, I've got all these things that I need to do. I'm gonna start and I'm gonna go for it. And then, like in saying that, at the same time, you don't really need a direction of where you're going at the same time. If you kind of just like manifest it and like just set your goals and work semi towards it, like things will actually come to you. You attract that energy towards you of, like let's say for example I want to buy a new car, right? You vision that and you're like, all right, well, I'm actually not sure, because not everyone knows how they're going to achieve it at that point in time when they say they want. You envision it and you're like, well, I'm going to work towards it by just working really hard right now, but I'm going to constantly remind myself that I'm actually going to have it. And by doing that, you're attracting all this like positive energy, and you're attracting all this energy towards you that kind of open up different gateways for you to achieve these goals. And I feel like you shouldn't, like, if you don't have that actual like reason, or you don't have that like how you're going to achieve it, like don't bring yourself down about that. Like actually still strive for it, but think about those things throughout your journey towards it. Not everything's a simple straight path in life. Life, the road of life is all going to be curvy, up and down. It's just how it is. But I feel like if you set goals, then you're in the right direction, but just constantly think back to it and think about, all right, well, I figured out my how now. Now I'm going to figure out the reasons and all that to achieve that goal. Like, not the reasons, but like the steps to achieve that goal.
Yeah, well, I reckon that was big. The whole, sometimes you're going to find the answer along the way. Yeah, so
I think with that, as simply as just stepping out of your comfort zone. Like, you might not know what you're going to end up with, but you just go, you know what, I want this. Don't know how I'm going to get it, but I'm going to get it. And that could be, you could research it, or you could go out on your own and see how you're going to find it yourself. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think taking that step out is that first step of realizing what you can and can't do. So,
what are your thoughts, Arlo?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in and again, this isn't maybe for everyone, but I'm a big believer in setting goals that, I guess, really borderline that fringe between what you're actually capable of and what's beyond your capabilities. Because when you're towing that line and you're walking that tightrope, that's when the biggest growth occurs. When you're too conservative, when you're setting goals that are too easy, that are too, safe, like, yes, those are still good. And if you can't even do that, then that's something that definitely you can work on and improve that. But once you have that mastered, because, maybe people who are watching this very well are very good at setting goals, and that's not a problem for them. But then it's escalating that and going like, okay, well, can I push myself further? Can I push myself harder? And when you do start to fail, that's a good sign. That's not a bad sign. That's a good sign, because it means like, okay, well, I'm hitting a few of these, I'm missing some of them, but that's a good indicator that you are like riding that wave. You're like right at that crest of your peak potential. You're really pushing yourself to be more than what you are. And unless there's no other way to get there, you can't build from, I guess, the bottom up. You have to like get to that point where you're not even sure whether or not you can surpass that. When you get to that summit and you don't know if you can go further, that's when you have to really be striving your hardest and go, okay, well, I've done this, I've run this far, I've read this much, I've studied this much, I've put in this much hours into my work. Where does it begin to cut off? Where does your fuse begin to run out? And then when you work in that space, that's when I guess the biggest returns can be yielded, because that's where you're actually becoming familiar with yourself as a human being, like what your true potential is. And that's not the same for everyone. Some people will cap out a lot sooner than anyone else, and that's fine, because you are limited to who you are, as a person. Like the parameters, I guess, are set like by birth. Like there's that whole, I guess, nature versus nurture thing. And I think the best conclusion to take away from that is that whilst nature might set the parameters, like if you're 5'6", you're probably not going to dunk. Like it's probably not going to happen for you. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe it will, but it's probably not. So, and then same with like IQ. Like you have a certain IQ, you have a certain, I guess, on paper, a certain level of intelligence that you could reach. But again, the parameters are there. So you could fall way shorter than what you're capable of, or you could like max out that bar and really be the best version of yourself. And that's, I guess, what everybody's individual goal is. And we talk a lot about investing in yourself, and it is, that process is like maxing out all those bars as much as you can. Like if you think of it, I guess, in like video game logic, it's just like you have these stats, you have these, I guess, different abilities and skills, and it's different for everyone. And not everybody has, the same, I guess, reach that someone else might have. So, one person may never be able to run, a marathon. Like it's just not capable for them. Maybe, they're born with a disability, or like, whatever. Like people have certain limitations, and everybody, that's unique to everyone. But how far along that scale you can go is entirely up to you. And I think it really is your own individual responsibility to make sure that, okay, well, this is, I guess, what I as a human being, I'm physically capable of doing. Okay, well, let's see how far along that scale I can go, how much I can actually achieve.
For sure. That's a really good point. That is a really good point. I was just speaking on that. You reminded me of something. It's like you can set all these goals, right? And like you were talking like that, like having like that thing, like that borderline kind of like goals. You can have these goals and you can achieve these goals, but what are you gonna do next, right? If you're not constantly pushing yourself, you're gonna get to this plateau of like, let's say for example, one of my good friends, she's like 24 now, something. She's achieved all the goals that she set from such a young age, right? She's a millionaire, she's got this house, family started, etc., etc., etc. But then she's gotten to a point where she's like, what do I do now with my life? It's like, I've achieved all of this, I've done all this at such a young age. And then, you're lost, you're confused. But I feel like with the way Ali said it, it's like if you're constantly having that goal where you're like semi-uncomfortable, semi-comfortable, I feel like you can't really max out in a goal. I feel like you'll figure out what you need next. You'll figure out what you can do next. And sometimes it's just taking a little step back from your life and just thinking like, oh, well, I've actually done all this, but I feel like I can do more. But then that step back, you're reflecting on things that you can do. You're reflecting on people you can help. Anything that you can do to kind of just like I feel like once you achieve your goals, you should chase fulfillment at the same time. After that, like, what will give you fulfillment in your life? Like, if you've got everything that you've wanted in life, you should really be chasing a different goal, and that goal should be fulfillment. Yeah. You should be fulfilled in your life. You should be able to come to the end of your life and be like, hey, I lived a really good life. And I reckon that, like, if you can achieve your goals and achieve fulfillment at the same time, then, like, you're doing pretty well for yourself.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prometheus Podcast, where we aim to bring the fire back to the people.